Draymond Green is embarrassing himself. The man is genuinely embarrassing himself. And it's like, there's a reason why I love Draymond Green, the basketball player. I loved Draymond Green in those Warriors because the way he played basketball, like, as somebody who played at an okay level growing up, but was never much of a scorer, I had to figure out what I could do. I was a undersized big man and basically played a similar way to Draymond. So I loved what Draymond did because the way he played the game was the way I love players that play like that. And my favorite player of all time is Boris Diaw because of his ability to change the game without taking a shot. Draymond is in a similar role. Like the statless all-stars, the guys that just help their teams win whenever they can. But he's delusional. He is delusional. Draymond is absolutely delusional. Like, first of all, he's pissed off the Knicks fans, and they're not the people to piss off. Knicks, as far as like fans go in basketball, like I don't think there's many good NBA fans. Like, there are good NBA fans, but like fan bases, because like obviously I'm currently in Leeds right now. After a playoff win, like you're not experiencing something like that in the NBA level. Closest thing you are is the Knicks. Those Knicks fans, they love their team. But he then said the Knicks were a fluke, who in 2021 were, what were they, the fourth seed, I think? They did lose to the Hawks. 2022, yeah, they sucked. Last year, when they got Jalen Brunson, they made the second round of the playoffs, and they beat a Cleveland team, a healthy Cleveland team. And Cleveland, healthy, are pretty good. They're pretty good healthy. New York beat them. They just lost to Miami, who got to the finals. And then you've also got, like, as well as Draymond, as well as that, they may get to the conference finals this year, hurt. They're just this tough, grit and grind team. There's no fluke. When you're a team like that, when you will your way to wins, it's not a fluke. It's not a fluke. When you outwork the other teams, it's not a fluke. And I'm somebody that did not think the Knicks were as good as they are. But there's a difference between not expecting them to be as good as they ended up being and then saying their success is a fluke afterwards. But Draymond's obviously going down that route. But all this new media, like, he's just repeating. He's repeating the same things that you would hear on, like, talk shows. He's repeating those same things. He's the exact same. Except, you want to know what the difference between the new media, in Draymond Green's eyes, and the old media? That there's no accountability. So, like, according to Draymond, if Nick Wright says something ridiculous, which everybody does, I've said ridiculous things already on this channel, I'll continue to do it. Everyone when talking about this sport says ridiculous things, especially when in the entertainment industry as much as in the analysis industry. But everyone says ridiculous things. But according to Draymond, it's fine to insult guys in the old media, but if once you're in the new media, you're immune to all criticism. That's literally the only difference. Draymond is completely delusional. And then he went on a rant today in his podcast about Rudy Gobert, comparing it to like a Marcus Smart situation, being like, oh, Marcus Smart's defense player of the year, he's guarding Steph Curry, but Rudy Gobert's defensive player of the year, but they're not putting him on Jokic. And it's like, all right, you were defensive player of the year. You were defensive player of the year, and you were guarding Mozgov. You were defensive player of the year, and I'm trying to think who was even on that Cavs team. 2017-18. You were guarding Larry Nance when he was on the floor. You were defensive player of the year. Why were Iguodala, Kevin Durant, and Klay Thompson rotating on LeBron James? That's a dumb question. That's a really dumb question. Because the thing is, putting Rudy Gobert, as I've said in our video, putting Rudy Gobert on Jokic takes away Rudy Gobert's biggest strength, while it highlights Rudy Gobert's biggest weakness. Everybody on the defensive end has some strengths and some weaknesses. They have in the entire history of the sport. For example, if we look at some of the really great rim protectors and anchors, like your Mark Eatons, like your, to less of an extent, Hakeem, because he did move better laterally, with your Dikembe Mutombos, Marcus Camby. I'm looking at the thing of defensive players: Marcus Camby, Marcus Saul, Tyson Chandler. Prime Dwight was different type of defender. He's a bit quicker. He would be able to do a little bit better. But like, none of those guys could even handle Jokic at all. None of them would even be close to handling this Jokic. They would all have gotten cooked in the same way. As well as that, like, When you have a rim protector like a Rudy Gobert, you build your defensive system around him being able to protect the rim. When he's suddenly being pulled out to the perimeter and being pulled to guard a guy who can take him on the inside, take him on the outside, and pass the ball, it takes away your entire defensive system. And Draymond's smart enough to know that, because Draymond did the same thing with the Warriors. Draymond was a help side defender. Draymond was the anchor. Draymond is one of the best defenders I've ever seen. But he's smart enough to know exactly why Rudy Gobert is not guarding Jokic. But he's also smart enough to know that a lot of his listeners aren't smart enough to know that. And he hates Rudy Gobert. Look, I don't even know why he hates Rudy Gobert. I don't know, maybe because he got a few defensive player of the years. But at the same time, like, I'm not questioning why anybody hates Rudy Gobert. He's Rudy Gobert. Like, there is a reason people don't like him. He is one of the most unlikable players I've ever seen. And this is somebody who thinks he's really good. He's one of the most unlikable players. Like, obviously, the pandemic, he punched a teammate last year. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons to not like Rudy Gobert. But his performance on the court and his defense is not one of them. And it is funny, like, people talk about LeBron trying to change the narrative. That's all Draymond has tried to do. It's literally his whole new media thing is basically him trying to change the narrative. All he tries to do, anytime any clips get shared, is him trying to change the narrative. Him trying to change the narrative of him nearly like, literally, had Jordan Poole stepped up, he could have Kermit Washingtoned him. Like, he, obviously, it was unlikely, but he could have killed his teammate. But he somehow changed the narrative and made it that he was the victim. Domantas Sabonis grabbed his leg, which is, like, completely wrong. But his response was by curb stomping him in the chest, which is completely dangerous. Like, it's just dangerous. Like, whatever about the grabbing the leg, it wasn't like he grabbed the knee. He kind of just grabbed the leg and Draymond wasn't even moving. But curb stomping him was dangerous. Then he changed the narrative that he was the victim. All Draymond's podcast has done is change the victim. All Draymond's new media thing is play the victim and make it so that. And he talks about this new media and the players. No, it's about himself. It's about himself. This guy is the most delusional basketball player we've ever seen. A hell of a player. A hell of a player. But, like, a seriously flawed player as well. Like, nothing necessarily on the court, but if you consider, like, his outbursts as being off the court, his inability to stay on the floor due to his own inability to stop assaulting people, like, there are so many, like, blemishes on Draymond Green. But he knows. Once you're the media, you can change the narrative. And that's what he's done. That is what he's done. And not only that, is he changed the entire narrative about the quote-unquote old media. Ironically, him making a fool of himself now is giving more credibility to all those guys that he spent years trying to take away credibility from. But he's just digging his own grave as far as, like, his ability to work in the media. Like, he was terrible inside the NBA. He was absolutely terrible. Caruso looked like he didn't want to, or he didn't know what he was doing being on TV, and he was still better than Draymond Green. He has now become one of the more disliked players, whereas a couple of years ago would have been almost unanimously one of the more liked players. A hell of a player, but he just is, one, delusional, two, like, is smart enough to know that he has the ability to change the narrative with his platform, and three, like, and not only that, he is not once uses what he does to ever bring anyone up. It's just to belittle others and try to bring up himself. So anyway, that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.